Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
Here we go on Tider Insider TV. Stories making headlines tonight. Former Alabama defensive tackle Marty Lyons is the newest member of the Crimson Tide to make the College Football Hall of Fame. This year's class was announced this morning. Lyons played at Alabama in the mid-'70s and later went on to play for the New York Jets. And Rodney, this is a guy that you watch closely. I did too.
Wow.
And you know, in terms of athleticism, size, speed, he could have played in any era, including today. He was a terrific football player.
Look at him run down Rod Gerald there. Rod Gerald was
athletic,
a tremendous athlete, great speed. Look at Marty Lyons just run him down from behind.
Well, it's a long and illustrious list of former Crimson Tiders to make the College Football Hall of Fame. I think it's up to maybe 22 or 23 now. Congratulations to Marty Lyons. Also making news today, the aftermath left by the April 27th tornado is the cover story of this week's Sports Illustrated. Pictured is former Alabama player Javier Arenas surveying the damage. The article, written by Lars Anderson, who lives in Birmingham, actually teaches a class here at the University of Alabama, focuses on how Alabama football and Alabama sports will play an integral part in the rebuilding process. And good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock. Tonight, ice-cold Pepsi. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm Gary Harris. And Rodney, we found out, just a few weeks ago that there's sports and then there's real life with the tornado. And again, that was the case last week with some more tragic news. Alabama offensive tackle Aaron Douglas was found dead Thursday morning following a house party near Jacksonville, Florida. Police are still conducting an investigation as to the exact cause of the death. Actually, the place was Fernandina Beach. Douglas was a mid-year enrollee at UA after transferring in from Arizona Western Community College. He played his freshman season, you'll remember, at Tennessee. Rob Sweeting of Jacksonville station WJXT has more on Douglas's death and the questions still left unanswered.
A late-night party ends with a University of Alabama football player dead on a balcony. Fernandina Beach police were called to this home early Thursday morning, where they say they found Alabama offensive lineman Aaron Douglas dead, likely from an overdose.
Apparently not a very raucous party. No calls were made to the police department last night. Although from talking with people that were at the party, we learned that there was a great deal of alcohol consumed. There was probably marijuana consumed, and there was discussion of other drugs.
Our cameras stopped by the home. We tried to talk to some of the 15 to 25 people who police say were at the party. Some stared at our cameras out the window. But they wouldn't come to the door when we knocked. In fact, just off camera, here is our only brief interaction with someone from that party.
You were there last night? What?
I don't want to talk to you.
You don't want to talk? I mean, were you there most of the time, or did you stay there?
Police say Douglas was in town visiting friends and was called to the party by a couple of women.
And they invited him to this party on First Avenue. So he redirected his travel and went to this party instead. Curiously, of course, no one at the party seemed to know him. Only the two girls who had just met him knew him at all.
Again, that was Rob Sweeting of Jacksonville station WJXT with that in-depth report. Douglas was remembered at a Sunday night memorial service in Knoxville, Tennessee. Again, remembered as a great young man, had a terrific family. He is certainly going to be missed. And Alabama offensive lineman Barrett Jones had this to say about the death of his short-time teammate. Quote, Aaron Douglas was a great teammate and a great guy. He was a really hard worker that was having a positive impact on our football team. Aaron was someone I've known since high school. We were from the same state, and we were being recruited at the same time. I enjoyed getting to know him, and I was looking forward to having him as a teammate the next 2 years. His loss is extremely sad, and we are going to miss him dearly. He has a wonderful family, and our thoughts and prayers go out to them. More reaction now from the Alabama community.
When you lose your parents, you're an orphan. When your wife dies, you're a widower. When the husband dies, you're a widow. But they don't have a word for when you lose a child. And the guy did a great job here. He was doing great for us. And it's just really sad.
Outstanding young man, a very impressive young man. And we're
we feel so sad for their family. Glad that we were all, many of us were able to go up for the funeral and to support the family during a tough time in their life.
Has been a tough time for a lot of people, certainly first and foremost his family. His dad, David was a very good football player at the University of Tennessee in the mid-'80s. His mom was a basketball player on Pat Summitt's first national championship team, so an athletic family. And Aaron Douglas, you know, had a checkered career at Tennessee. On the playing field, he was outstanding. But when the coaching change happened, he didn't fit in. He went to Arizona Western because Derek Dooley said, hey, you're going to have to transfer away from Tennessee. He did a year there and really was in position to see his career re-blossom here at the University of Alabama.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
He really was, Gary. And, you know, I had an opportunity to talk many times to the Arizona Western head coach Tom Minnick, who has a great record of success out there and knows players really well. And he thought that Aaron Douglas would be in the NFL in a couple of years. He had that athletic ability that you want at your left tackle spot. But again, I realize the life situations are much greater than what it is on the football field. But, you know, again, he was a very talented kid. He's certainly going to be missed. And the thing that you take from Barrett Jones' comments and other players that we've heard from was, yeah, we weren't around him very long, but everybody liked him. He was a likable guy. He fit in really well. Again, a tragic story. Aaron Douglas, just 21 years old at the time of his untimely death. Well, we mentioned at the top of the show of how the cover story of this week's Sports Illustrated focuses on UA athletics playing an important role in the tornado rebuilding process. Here's a perfect example of that. Last night at the Zone, Crimson Tide head coaches participated in a special statewide radio broadcast put on by the Crimson Tide Sports Network called Hey Coach Helping Out. It was basically to raise money for tornado relief efforts, not just in Tuscaloosa, but over the entire state of Alabama.
This is home for us, and to see the devastation of these people and to know that you can step out and make a difference, I think that's everything.
A strange byproduct of it is that everybody has come together, not just the teams, but the whole community. And I think you're going to see it more and more, even in 5 years, 10 years down the road. This is going to be, it's hard to think of it right now this way, but I think it's going to be a positive.
Certainly a lot of people have done a lot to help, and we certainly appreciate it. But it's something that's going to have to continue because it's going to take a long time to fix everything that happened here and the devastation of this storm.
And one thing we've seen is an outpouring of support from former UA athletes. Just this past week, Julio Jones, Marcel Darius, Rashad Johnson, the list goes on and on. Former football players, basketball players, and pro athletes who don't have ties to Tuscaloosa even coming to town. It's just been a remarkable outpouring of support with those folks assisting in tornado relief efforts. Well, still to come on Titv, we'll shift gears and talk about football recruiting. Bama landed another big-time commitment on Monday. Rodney will have his evaluation of Dylan Lee. Also still to come tonight, the Alabama baseball team is taking its postseason fate right down to the wire. Where does the Tide stand in the hunt for Hoover? We'll let you know. Plus, we'll get to your phone calls and emails. You can give us a ring at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or email us at TITV@WVUATV.com. Stay tuned. You're watching the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one and only Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock. Welcome back to Tider Insider Television alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris. 12 football commitments for Alabama for the class of 2012. The latest coming on Monday afternoon. We're going to talk about Dylan Lee. Interesting case here. You followed his recruitment closely. You had said he had been telling you Alabama was the leader, and then last week, suddenly like Florida State had taken the lead. But yesterday afternoon, citing the Alabama coaching staff as the difference, he chose the Crimson Tide. Good bloodlines here. His brother is an offensive lineman at Georgia. He's got all the measurables, 6'4", 235 pounds, has a nasty attitude on the field. You've watched a lot of film. Your evaluation?
Well, I mean, he's just very athletic, Gary. When you look at him, he's got the height that they look for, and he's got the frame to add weight. And, he's got good speed. Just watching him, on some of the tape that they had on YouTube. And, he's looked pretty good in pass coverage, too. Made some interceptions, has the ability to cover. And, he's a really intelligent kid. And I think Alabama likes him for that Mike linebacker spot where he can call the defenses and stuff like that. So I think he'll be really really good in Alabama's defense.
I was going to say, he seems to be pegged as an inside linebacker. That seems to be what he's being recruited for. He's athletic enough to play on the outside, which gives you some options. But, you know, you could make some comparisons in terms of size and in terms of his ability to already call defenses at the high school level. Seems to be a guy that studies a lot of film, to Orlando McClain, who came out of Decatur and walked right in as a freshman and started.
Yeah, and again, just watching him, Gary, when you look at him, he looks really thin. You know, but he's 230 plus pounds and has that frame to get bigger, and you know, his speed, his ability to run plays down from the backside, and looked really good. So, you know, he's a very talented kid. He had a lot of offers. You get offered by Alabama, USC, and Florida, Florida State, and all those schools. You must be pretty good. Yeah,
probably going to wind up playing at about 255, like McClain and Hightower at Alabama. All right, baseball time. Let's take a look. If the tournament started today, and there's one weekend series left for every team, Alabama would be the number 2 seed. Now you're asking, how would they be the number 2 seed? Well, the West Division winner, regardless of record, gets that number 2 seed. Right now, Alabama, Mississippi State, Auburn, and Arkansas are all tied for first place, but Alabama would win the tiebreaker going into this final weekend. So the Tide is right there. Of course, they've got South Carolina coming in, who right now is the best team in the league. So there's some work to be done, Rodney, but with a team that, you know, is kind of in rebuilding mode, to be honest with you, this season, losing its entire starting infield. To be in this position with one series to go, as Mitch Gaspard said, that's about all you can ask for.
Yeah, and I think they've done a good job down the stretch a little bit. Of course, I know they had the lost 2 of 3 at Auburn, but again, you know, this series against South Carolina is big.
It's huge. If Alabama can get one game, one win, we think they'll get into Hoover. If they win 2, or certainly if they swept, they can wind up getting that number 2 seed, which would really be nice and make a difference as you get over there to try to win the SEC tournament. Well, coming up, the Alabama softball team is hosting an NCAA regional this weekend. We'll talk one-on-one with Coach Pat Murphy about that and how his team is preparing for the tournament. And also, we'll get to your phone calls and emails. Again, the number 205-348-9882. Or you can email us as well. You're watching Tider Insider TV. We're coming back in a couple of minutes. The Alabama softball team watched the NCAA selection show Sunday night and found out that they're the overall number 2 seed in the tournament. Bama will host a regional this weekend, starting play Friday night at 6 against SWAC champion Jackson State. Also coming to Tuscaloosa, Memphis and Chattanooga. Earlier today, I sat down with Crimson Tide head coach Patrick Murphy to discuss the regional and more. Coach, I said this earlier in the week that you know, this is kind of getting to be old hat for the Alabama softball program and you personally, but at the same time, I know that the enthusiasm for hosting a regional isn't any less. If anything, because of the events that we've had here in Tuscaloosa in the last few weeks, you're probably more excited than you've ever been to host a regional.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. The night of the selection show, the person next to me on the couch was Jackie Trina, who's a freshman. Right. And she didn't know anything that was going on, you know, in terms of who goes where or who hosts and the seeds and nothing. So it was a lot of fun sitting next to her, kind of listening to her and all her, you know, wows, and, you know, she understood it after it was over. But it's really cool to see a freshman go through that, and then what our city has gone through. Hopefully it'll be a little positive distraction for a lot of people, and, you know, it just it's going to help us out too. But I just hope we can do some good for the city.
Let's go back to April 27th. Of course, like all of us, you're just trying to survive the tornado, but you come out of it unscathed. The facility comes out unscathed, and you've got a series that weekend coming up against Kentucky. You make the decision to cancel that series, and I mean, literally cancel it. There was no chance to make those games up. Obviously, softball was secondary, but still losing those 3 games could have really cost you in terms of an SEC championship. But to go ahead, cancel those 3 games, sweep Ole Miss, wind up winning the championship, I mean, that had to feel really sweet.
Yeah, and you know, we didn't think about it at the time. But you know, we come back from a 5-day layoff, and I talked to my equipment manager, Jason Nance, and the first thing he said was, you know, there's still a chance. And I said, no, there isn't. And he said, yeah, if you win all 3 and Florida wins 2 or 3, you guys win it by percentage points, and that's how they figure out the champion. And I had no idea. I hadn't looked into it. We really hadn't worried about it. But when we met that night with the team and said, believe it or not, all our goals are still within reach.
and I think some of them knew, some of them didn't. But after that night, I mean, when we brought the softballs out to play catch, I heard a couple of them say, "I really missed this," and you know, they needed to be out there playing with their teammates and just, you know, getting after it and having fun after, you know, a horrible thing happened.
So you win the SEC regular season championship. You make it to the semifinals of the tournament. You get to host, as we mentioned, your #2 overall seed. Let's look ahead to Friday's regional. You play Jackson State. You've also got Memphis and Chattanooga in the tournament. Just talk about the tournament field and what you see out of it.
Well, Jackson State, both Jackson State and Memphis, first-time participants, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good for the sport of softball to see 2 new teams get in, first time in their colleges. But Jackson State has a very good younger coach, just started in January, and it's kind of a Cinderella story because Mississippi Valley State usually dominates that league, and they won their tournament. They get the automatic berth. Memphis, it's only 6 years old, and again, another really good young coach. He used to coach at a Division II in Georgia. Great lady, has done a great job over there. They've got some big wins this year. They beat Kentucky. They beat Stanford, and then their pitcher struck out 19 against Texas A&M, who was hosting. And then Chattanooga, who all of our fans know, I think it's the 4th time they've come here for regionals. They've been in it almost every single year. They win their league every year, and they're kind of like that mid-major in basketball that you don't want to play.
All right, Patrick Murphy talking this afternoon with me about the upcoming NCAA Regional. All right, time to talk to some of our viewers right now. Rodney, let's go to the phones. First up tonight is Johnny over in Bessemer. Johnny, welcome into the program.
Hey, man, what's going on, Roll Tide?
Hey, Johnny, what you got?
Hey, man, I'm trying to find out, can Alabama go all the way this year?
Well, Johnny, they certainly will be one of the teams that are favored to. They're going to be in the top 5 of most every poll, and certainly they can. But it's going to take some good play, some luck. You have to get the bounces. We saw in 2008, they went undefeated during the regular season, lost to Florida in the championship game. 2009 came back and won them all. And then last year, just a couple of plays here and there, they would have played for it. So certainly they can, Rodney, but being able to and actually getting it done, and remember, there's only going to be one team at the end of the year that's holding up that trophy.
Well, I think they're going to be solid on the offensive line. They've got some running backs with Trent Richardson and Eddie Lacy that are outstanding, and so they're going to be able to run the football. Young at quarterback, that inexperience worries me a little bit. You look on the defensive side, they're loaded. You know, there are some questions up front on the defensive line, but, you know, they should be able to be very good defensively, so, you know, they should make a run, Johnny.
Yeah, expect them to be in the mix, that's for sure. Let's talk to our good buddy CB in Tuscaloosa. CB, how are you?
Fine, man. I tell you, the old baseball team been just kind of hanging around and hounding in there like a rusty fish hook. We got to get there and get with the program this weekend. They got to come to the Joe. Ain't nobody giving us much chance. I am. Let's get with it.
I hear you, CB. The motto is play hard, get dirty, and Rodney, that's what this team does. They get after it. They're not the most talented ball club, but South Carolina's loaded. But again, as he said, CB said, they're at the Joe. You don't count the Tide out.
That's right.
All right, more phone calls and emails right after this. Stay with us. Let's get right back to the phones. Sarah has been waiting patiently in Tuscaloosa. Sarah, how are you? Sarah, are you with us? All right, wants to know about the status of the Alabama quarterback situation, Rodney.
Well, it's a good question. Alabama obviously has 2 talented young ones, Sarah. You're talking about Phillip Sims, a redshirt freshman out of Virginia, and A.J. McCarron, redshirt sophomore. So, you know, they're battling for the spot, and it'll carry over as it did in the spring into the fall. And, you know, who knows what's going to happen, but we've talked about it over and over again, Gary. Probably early on, see both of them play. You know, what the rotation would be, you know, who knows. But, you know, I think we're going to see both of them early for sure.
All right, let's get to an email question. This is from Vaughn. Wants to know, are there any updates on men's basketball recruiting? Well, Vaughn, the update is that everybody's waiting on Trevor Lacy. He will announce tomorrow, 2 o'clock at Butler High School in Huntsville. Now, I'm not saying Alabama won't sign anyone else in the early period, but it's probably going to have a lot to do with what happens tomorrow. If they get Trevor Lacy, my guess is they would be done for this year. If they don't, there may be another player out there, junior college player or something. But Bama, Kentucky, Kansas, Auburn, the finalist. His dad says that Trevor will probably make up his mind at 1:59 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, then announce it too. All right, real quickly, let's talk to Roger. Roger, welcome in. How are you?
Hey, Gary, just fine. How are you and Rodney?
Yeah, go ahead, Raj. We're good.
Yesterday, Texas passed a law that agents, runners, and all these guys that are doing things illegally with high school kids, prison time, 10 years, plus a still fine. Do you believe that state of Alabama may soon follow Texas?
Roger, I definitely think they're gonna try to crack down on this. Now, whether or not you're going to be able to enforce it will remain to be seen, but I do think Texas is taking a step in the right direction and trying to say, hey, if we catch you doing something you shouldn't be doing with these athletes, then we're going to put you behind bars. Again, trying to enforce that, I don't know how difficult that would be, but I do think it's a step in the right direction, and I would expect other states to follow if they have success out there in Texas. Well, coming up, Tuscaloosa is home to one of the best collegiate golf programs in the country. We'll have that story when TITV continues. The Alabama men's and women's golf teams both ranked third in the latest rankings, and both squads are 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. The men begin regional play this Thursday, while the Tide women, after winning their region, will begin the NCAA championships on Wednesday. Both squads will compete separately, but there's no doubt that this is a united front when it comes to golf.
We call this Alabama golf. We're not men's golf, women's golf. When we're around here, we talk with each other, and we do it in our programs. We do it with our alumni and all. We're Alabama golf.
They compete a lot around here, around the practice facility. They're always doing that, and there's a lot of smack talking going on. But, you know, the better players Jay has, the more it means to me, and also in recruiting.
And good luck to both those squads. Well, that's going to do it for our program tonight. It's dinner time, and we're headed to Buddy's Rib and Steak. See our good friend Philip Guy over there in Northport. Why don't you come out and join us for dinner? We'll be there in about 15 minutes. Remember, if you want to watch a replay of the show, you can do it at WVUATV.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again right here next week on Tider Insider TV.